In the years, it continued to be a need for local farmers to have their crops harvested. In the 50s, there was the place called the barracas, which housed the seasonal workers who were primary single men. This was a one-room with a common restroom living quarters. In 1991, Casa Vista was built. It was county housing that was really under a rural development grant, and county has provided some help with this community. There was a lot of resistance for this migrant housing in Boulder Valley area. Casa Vista was dormitory type that had common living quarters for families, and it closed after a few years. This is Casa Esperanza, which is part of the county program. This was built in 1993 under the Rural Development Grant again. There are 32 units. This is for families. Boulder County actually provides the funds for the service workers to this population, which is very much needed to do the agricultural work in this area. There is no other individuals who are willing to do this labor out in the fields other than the migrants who come in. This population has been here for many years and will probably be needed for many more years. Some families in Casa Esperanza have been able to become homeowners, and that's a good thing. That's helping the economy and all that aspect of life. This is what is called now Butterball Turkey Processing Company. It has gone through 3 different names. At times there were as many of 1,000 workers working for this company, and many were Hispanic, Latinos. Butterball took it over and maintained a workforce of 350 people, but the majority of them were also, again, Latinos. Company closed in 2011 and left 350 people without jobs, without any benefit. The working conditions were horrendous, little benefits for workers. Many suffered injuries and long-term illnesses with no assistance. Low wages, limited pay raises, and no upward mobility options. Many of the Latinos worked here for many years with no retirement. Great Western Sugar Factory was opened in the 1900s and actually closed its processing of the sugar plant in 1977. The facility has continued to be utilized. The silos are used still to do distribution, and they have distribution throughout the states, Colorado and other states in the northern part of the United States. During the years that it was operated, there were many Latinos that worked at entry-level labor-type jobs, and many of them didn't get any retirement plan or any upgrading of jobs or anything like that. This is one of the largest pea canning companies in the United States. It's now called the Old Cannery. Earlier it was called Kuhner Emson. Kuhner Emson operated in Longmont, opened in 1903, and then closed its doors in 1970. There were many Latinos who worked on the processing line. It now presently is a place called the Cannery, which are some very elegant, expensive apartments and a complex, which houses a play area, swimming pool, and those amenities for families who live there. There were limited places for Latinos to feel comfortable and have a place to socialize. In 1955, there were several Latino individuals who hosted 2 different kinds of entertainment that actually Latinos were feeling good about attending. They had social dances on Saturday evenings, which was held up at the Dickens Opera House on the upper floor. They rented that part of the facility and were able to host these dances. There was also a pool hall up in Dickens Opera House. This is St. John's Church, the only Catholic church here in Longmont. It was established in the early 1800s, and as you all know, the Latino culture takes much pride in their religion and believers of praying to saints and find that as sort of their mental health. The church is a place that they went in time of crisis. This church is located on the east side of town, which is very easily accessible for the Latinos in walking distance. But not until 1977 did the Catholic Church offer full services in Spanish. At that point, began to make a concentrated effort on recruiting and getting Spanish-speaking priests who would come in, and that is still a practice today. This is a statue that was put up recently, now in 2013, in honor of a young man. The first soldier to die in Vietnam was a Latino, and he died in 1966. Many of the soldiers that came back from the different wars were faced with coming down Main Street, where there was no Mexicans or dogs allowed, signs that were put up at many of the businesses, and they refused to serve Latinos. There were men who came home from the war and said, if we can serve this country, we should be allowed to, and we will be allowed to be served here in this community. And with that, the signs are down, but many of the feelings are still there. There is a dividing line in Longmont. There always has been, and I suppose there always will be, that anything east of Main Street is acceptable to purchase homes for Latinos. It's always been common practice. You're looking for a home, even today, many times it happens. The realtor will automatically lead you and direct you to homes on the east side of town. After much dismay and negotiating, there have been Latinos who have bought homes in the west side of town and or the northern part of town, but had to live a real difficult life in that they were never really totally accepted in those communities. Also, the railroad tracks were always assigned to that Latinos live on the other side of the tracks. So that was always a common piece of information that people were given when they moved here. The IBM plant on the diagonal going between Longmont and Boulder was another employer that hired many Latinos in the 60s and 70s. Although many of these Latinos were hired in at entry-level positions and were mostly in lower positions, and a lot of them were in the divisions of printing and the copiers, which was a lot of assembly line. Economically, this impacted the Latino community because this offered higher wages than any other company in the area. And it also provided things like retirement plans for Latino families. The community economic base saw a change from less agricultural to high technology. So IBM has been a good contributor in providing better jobs for Latinos, but it is also known that IBM still does not have many Latinos at the higher level, administrative and director and or supervisor. On August the 14th in 1980, a Longmont police officer shot and killed two young Latino men for a moving violation on 11th and Main Street. Within hours of this shooting taking place, a group of local Latinos founded an organization that they called El Comité, a grassroots organization dedicated to assist Latinos. El Comité was responsible for helping to keep the peace at this difficult time in our community. And El Comité continues to be a critical resource for the Longmont community today. The officer who shot these two young men was never held accountable. He was acquitted manslaughter charges and moved out of the community. This has left a large scar in the Latino community. Parents were very distrusting and continue to be at times very distrusting of the judicial system, the police departments. The school that is the oldest school in the Longmont community is Columbine Elementary, and that actually is a school that most of the Latinos went to. It's on the east side of town. It's in walking distance for the Latinos. There were very few, if any, bilingual teachers. Obviously, there weren't many role model teachers who were Hispanic, Latinas, Latinos in the school district. A lot of efforts were made to try and fix this situation, but we still have a long ways to go.